Good evening. Are we live? We're live.
Yeah.
Good evening. Wow, you're loud. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to an LPA Solidarity Stream. We are LP Alliance and Intercaucus Coalition, rebuilding the Libertarian Party and revolutionizing the Liberty Movement. My name is Amanda Griffiths. I'm joined by Kyle Davis. I'm joined by the wonderful chat. Kyle, what are we up to tonight?
It depends. Is my microphone still too hot?
It's always a little bit too hot.
Because you can hear me. Makes sense to me. So tonight we're going to go with a bunch of discussions around member empowerment and affiliate empowerment, and some of the ideas we've had for those things. Freedom Call 1. Perfect.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. All right. So obviously one of the big paradigms that we're working with here is that the party is the efforts of its members, right? And that the more invested members are in the party, meaning the more that they do in the party, the more that they're able to do in the party, the more that they care about the party and the more that they contribute to the party. So all of what we are trying to accomplish here with the Grand Rapids Revolution is centered around member empowerment and making sure that you and I, and not Kyle, but everyone but Kyle, has more of a voice in the LP. We don't want Kyle to have more of a voice because his microphone's already too hot. But as for the rest of it, we want things to be more member-centric, and that is part of what causes and cause support demands and affirms. Another thing that we realized during the LNC chair, not chair, I keep calling it chair because they're all chairs. The other thing that I realized during the LNC at large installation is that, especially when it comes to replacements, right, and filling vacant seats, there is so much that members are left out of. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that we think, well, it's costly, it costs time, and it costs money to get members more involved in things like this. An at-large representative is literally supposed to represent the members at large, right? That's what they're supposed to do. There's nothing at large about what happened on Sunday. And that's not to say anything negative about any of the candidates, right? Like, they can't help this. There's nothing at large about any of that, except for the fact that it is only like the largest positions that get a say in who's supposed to represent the members at large, in terms of nominations, in terms of voting. And the idea of at-large membership or at-large representation, to me at least, is kind of silly because we're individualists. I don't want someone speaking for me on the LNC. So I am both more and less democratic here. I want and Kyle can interject if he disagrees, sort of Vatican seats, Joe, or at least it looks similar. But we want members to have more of an opportunity to take initiative in the party. But we also want anyone who serves in an office or capacity not to necessarily be doing what the members tell them, because that would be no better than us doing what some caucus leader or some representative tells us. We want people who are representatives to be representing the platform and the ideology and to be making their decisions based on what they believe is the best representation of libertarianism. So when I hear representative, I don't think represents the membership, because I don't think that anyone should be representing the membership but themselves. What representatives do is represent the platform, and so do we all. Representatives do it in an official capacity. But Kyle, I'm looking at Joseph Miller. So Kyle and Joseph Miller. Kyle had a couple of thoughts about this. I'm going to call you Kyler from now on, just because it sounds so great. Sounds like a hippie name.
I got some kind of nickname, I guess.
But
legitimately, I changed my volume hugely, so if it's too loud or too soft, let me know.
It's perfect to me.
Nice. That means it's probably too quiet for everyone else. I assume that you want me to talk about the voting portion, right?
Yeah, but I also want Joe to know, first of all, that the LNC's BMI is too high, and yes, I am LNC body shaming.
Angela McCardle leaves. Stephen Michaela goes to the chair. BMI is all destroyed. So one of the things that's consistently talked about is how we can't do electronic voting securely, especially if the people aren't all in the same room and we don't have some way to, like, basically use like bit chat or something that's directly Bluetooth to actually make sure everyone's in the same room. There's a couple problems with that. The first major one is, why should people be in the same room to vote? And I'm going to start by talking about national and the national convention and kind of spread out a little bit from there. So if you don't like listening to me, go grab a drink or something, and Amanda will be back soon, I'm sure. So there's a difficulty for lots of people to get to the national convention. We've talked about this both on Solidarity before. We've talked about it in the business list. We've talked about it during LPA Live. We've talked about it repeatedly. That both Povertarians and people who just may have a conflict can't get to a thing, but they may have an opinion and they may have been chosen as a delegate. Sometimes things happen. The idea that because you can't physically get to a thing, even if you've been chosen as a delegate, means that you don't get to vote on that thing is kind of nonsense. We're the party of all the IT people. We're the party of everybody in the security field. Like, we have this technology. So as far as that goes, people have been talking about for a while the ideas around secure voting technologies. And I think that everyone has over-focused. And so I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I was talking about it with Amanda before. That's why she's putting me on the spot for it now rather than allowing me to get there organically or anything.
That was organic.
As in, it's full of carbon. It's chemistry organic.
My organs brought us here. And they're doing great.
There's a technology that's been around for literally 30 years at this point, but it's gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and easier, and that's physical authenticators. You can have a physical hardware device, or hardware authentication for people who've heard that one, that is set up so that you must have that physical device, no other one, to be able to log in somewhere. The one that people are most used to seeing at this point is the YubiKey. They come in USB, USB-C, or in Lightning, so that they can go into any major device. And the only way to log in somewhere is to physically insert that YubiKey into whatever device you're voting from. This means that we should be able to have a hybrid convention where every delegate has a YubiKey, and if they are voting from their phone or their laptop or whatever, plug that sucker in, and it works fine. If they can't make it to the convention and they're watching the live stream and they want to vote, they should be able to plug their YubiKey in, log in, and vote remotely. Now, I'm sure people immediately are going to be like, well, what about the people who give their YubiKey to someone else? The fact of the matter is, if I hand my YubiKey to Amanda and say, hey, I want you to vote this way, I have entrusted my vote to her.
Bad
and
decision.
given her my
Really dumb. Yeah.
And given her my physical access to something. So I have put in her hands my vote. I have chosen to give her my representation. And realistically, you only have so many USB ports. No one's going to sit and be like, oh, we got 100 people together, all so that we can vote, but we only trust one person to do it, so we're going to plug in 100 YubiKeys, have 100 different browsers open in private, and do it. It's just not going to be a thing. It's the scaling doesn't work. And so instead, this means that people can vote from anywhere in the country on any issue. I want to touch back on this more in a minute, but I want Amanda to talk a little bit about her 51 state representation concept.
Oh, you do want me to talk about that? Okay, that's fantastic.
I do.
Okay. Now Kyle has put me on the spot.
Damn right.
So we have, there are many proposals for restructuring the LNC, and a lot of our audience has, independently come to the conclusion that regions can be problematic, right? And indeed, Mises actually didn't like regions either for different reasons. But regions are just not practical. There is nothing about my interests that I feel are represented by Andrew Chatterton. And that's not just a caucus thing. That's just the fact that there's this huge conglomerate of states, and Andrew Chatterton could not possibly do justice to, let's say that he's trying to be representative of members' interests on the LNC, which again, I don't think that is your job. I think your job is to represent the platform and the, and the principles of libertarianism in the best way possible. But this is yet another dimension of distance between the members and the LNC. So obviously it is impractical and possibly not even advisable to have the members actually voting for every single LNC vote at every single LNC meeting, right? That's a lot. I do think that when it comes to replacements, when it comes to filling vacancies and vacant seats, Joe, it is critical. But when it comes to just, run-of-the-mill votes on policy or procedure, fine. What we want to do, though, is make sure that every state is there. Every state has a voice. The model of regions doesn't make any sense to begin with, because the notion, right, was that, okay, well, this allows similar areas with similar interests to get together and have a louder voice. That's not so much of an object in the digital age. Interests are largely no longer regional when it comes to politics, that they are becoming less and less so. Moreover, another argument was made that, okay, well, there are smaller states that, for whatever reason, maybe they just have lower populations, maybe their ballot access requirements are way too stringent. They can't get as many representatives on the LNC as they would like, so they can team up and all be a region. This is, once again, I think, treating a symptom rather than a problem. First of all, I don't think vote share and membership should be the only barometers of whether a party is being successful. They're major ones, but what is the party actually doing? Yes, elections are important, vote share is important, but not all states are created equal in terms of ballot access. And so later on, possibly in another stream, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to measure engagement and reward engagement on the level of, or rather, when it comes to activism, when it comes to candidate events, when it comes to educational events, that sort of thing, ways that states can earn delegates outside of just, having the members, having the vote shares. When you talk about the LNC, really what we are moving toward is the need for a national 51, since there's DC, 51 officer plus the 4 model, right? So chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer.
51 seats plus 4 officers, but yeah.
Yes, 50. Well, but say they're officers of the state. That's the thing. So from each state, usually it's the chair, but you would not necessarily need to have it be the chair. Let's just say it, the chair of each state also sits on the LNC and has a vote on the LNC. Chairs are often busy, so if the chair wants to delegate that, and that is their right to delegate that to the vice chair, the secretary, the treasurer, maybe even a region rep, then they have that capacity. But it is 51 state officers plus 4 national officers. And that way there is once again an immediate connection, sense of immediate cohesion and solidarity between all the states and the LNC. There is not a barrier between member and state and national. There's not that fracturing. Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone is thinking of the interests in their states. Everyone is thinking about various events and decisions that their states are making. So Joe says that that's the same idea he's had for the LNC for years, which terrifies me because usually Joe and I disagree vehemently. But Joe, it's good to have you agreeing with brilliant people.
Is this a case of great minds think alike, or fools seldom differ?
It's a case of sometimes fools listen to great minds. And I appreciate that, Joseph. Thank you. There is an argument, though, that I've heard, which is, you get this from larger states or states that work particularly hard to get a number of votes, which is that, okay, well, we should be rewarded, right? If we've done a lot of work, then we should have more representation on the LNC. Again, what is being represented here? What's being represented is are the platform and the principles of the LP, not necessarily the members. The members should be representing themselves, their actions, and the representatives, again, are representing, yes, they're thinking of their members' interests, but really they're thinking of overall what is in the interest of the party. And from that, members' interest should follow. There should be a relationship between the two. This is where rewarding with delegates on the basis of activity, on the basis of vote share, on the basis of membership comes into play. So when you have a system whereby the members are able to individually and as a state earn delegate allotment, thank you, Joe, earn delegate allotment on the basis of action, right, rather than just pulling a lever, then you do get that reward for states that put in more time and put in more effort without penalizing states that, through no fault of their own, have lower populations and have less of an ability to turn out because of ballot access.
So this leads to another point about YubiKeys. Obviously, in the model where you have 51 seats on the LNC other than the 4 LNC officers, you have 55 people who have to vote. Suddenly, the quarterly meetings become a nightmare because you have to consistently find a space that can hold 55 people who can all talk to each other at a table effectively, plus anyone who wants to watch. Like for those who watched in Grand Rapids this year, during the LNC meeting there, a huge contingent of the Michiganders showed up just to watch and be part of the system. Those people are showing how much they want to be part of it. It's one of the things that, honestly, we're proudest about with the folks who took Michigan back this year. They showed up to LNC meetings. They showed up to everything. So instead of having an LNC meeting where, to point Austin Martin's existence out again, someone has to fly from Hawaii to Michigan just in case they need to vote, because Austin's an alternate. Why not give Austin one of these? I actually realized that I have one of my YubiKeys on my desk, so I grabbed it. I've got more of them over there because I'm a weird person. These are easy. National puts this in a machine. They encode your login to it. They reset your password, and this thing lets you in. You have to have your password plus your physical hardware. And only National can re-encode a new one of these, and only you can reset your password. So it's a zero trust system where you both have to agree if it needs to be reset. This means that you leave the party, or you're no longer on the LNC, they can just deactivate your YubiKey. Or if you think National is doing something with your account, you can log in and see what's happening remotely, and these votes can all be open. So you send these to every one of the 51 affiliates, and whenever they need to log in, they pop their key in, they watch the stream, because the stream is live, and as everyone knows, since it's Zoom, it's, there's less than a second of delay. You have the ability to sit and interject, you have the ability to talk, Now, given, people will argue that that means that you can have 51 people who are screaming during the Zoom and things. But you won't, because most of the people who can are going to want to be in person. People do want to be there for the social aspect. And the people who can't get there for whatever reason have the ability to still sit there and say things. Roner makes a good argument for why meetings should be in person. This is not some argument that everything should be completely digital. This is the argument that everything should be hybrid, because of the fact that if you can't get there for whatever reason, and that reason can just be, God, I don't feel up to going right now. People have bad mental health days. These things happen. You can still log in and cast your vote. This leads into another point about who should be allowed to vote in things, and thereby who ends up getting a YubiKey. But again, I think that would be a better explanation for Amanda than for me, so I'm going to pass off again.
I'm not sure what you're alluding to.
Who gets to vote, being who shows up to vote.
Oh, right, okay. First, I want to address something that Joe says. Joe, who agrees with me very intelligently, does mention that state affiliates can offer their vote as proxy to other LNC members, which is what the current region format does. That is true. That is one of the functions of the region format. It is arguably not the function that it is most used for. It's mostly like, okay, I don't have enough power as an individual state, so we're going to glom together, and then we're going to have a proxy. But here what you've done is, once again, you've put another barrier between the membership and the vote, right? You've put another barrier between the members' interests and the state's interests, and then what happens on the LNC. So it should be much more direct. There should not be one person who is meant to speak for not just all the states, but all those members in the states. And it's also that the state affiliate, it's not that the members are necessarily doing this, right? We've had many examples of people joining regions when their members have not been in agreement about the switching or joining of regions, right? So we have a lot of that when it's up to either election or designation of a particular officer in every state to serve on the LNC. It's much more streamlined. And again, there's much less distance between how far and how directly the LNC is able to coordinate within and between various states, and thereby, I'm catching Kyle's thereby disease, and thereby how well and how quickly states are able to communicate between one another. We talk a lot about hub and spoke, right? So if that LNC is the hub that is used to transact and coordinate and share information and initiatives, then that also means that every state is immediately connected to every other state just through that hub, which is less hierarchical and more holistic. I think what Kyle was referring to when he talked about who gets to vote was our vision for every state. And of course, we cannot enforce this in every state, but this was something that was mentioned a few nights ago. Again, as someone who believes firmly in member engagement and how that is actually what drives, party fundraising and party activity and success, I believe that the party belongs to those who show up, and that includes the members. Now, I do also believe in seasoning requirements. I don't think someone should just be able to become a member of the, their state LP and then go to their state LP's meeting and do whatever. There should be some type of seasoning requirement. But the vision for state affiliates is officers, right? So chair, vice chair. If you're Michigan, you have 2 vice chairs, for whatever reason, just to do your thing. Secretary, treasurer, possibly district representatives. And then any member who is in attendance at that meeting gets a vote if they have met that seasoning requirement. Any member gets to vote on what happens. You get more member turnout, you get more member engagement, you get more member investment. And when I'm talking about investment, we're talking about attention, we're talking about time, we're talking about money, we're talking about activity. These are all things that we want. We want the party to belong to the members, not just because it's right, but because it's lucrative. The more people that you have who feel invested in the party, the more people you have who are going to invest in the party. And that's a good thing.
In light of that, if everyone gets to vote, then everyone should have the ability to vote. And if everyone has the ability to vote, everyone has a YubiKey. This can mean that states can also use the same YubiKey system, because the way this works is you have a password manager, for instance. You set this YubiKey with a user in that password manager, and it works. So you can use this YubiKey in multiple places. So basically, these are $25 a piece, retail. Our dues are $25. Your first dues set should go to paying for a YubiKey and sending every member a YubiKey. Now, in the event that we can get national and states back on board to work together as a party instead of 52 parties, we could legitimately do this as a joint funding between states and national.
That's it. That's what I'm suspicious of. It sounds a lot like Kyle is proposing universal basic income, and I don't like it.
You be income. You be.
I don't want to be income.
You be income. So, your first year's dues get you a YubiKey. As someone who's paid for a lifetime membership who hasn't gotten my PIN yet, I fully understand.
Your YubiKey can have a porcupine on it. Phil has that.
They actually do make cases for YubiKeys, and you can put whatever you want on those. They'll print them for you. So
it's not a fundraising opportunity.
These could literally be libertarian ones.
Do a slight markup for people to get custom YubiKeys.
This is also where I was going with this. You encourage everyone to pay $25 to pay for the YubiKey too. So as people are becoming a member, you encourage the $50. Since most people, not all by a far margin, but a wide margin, but most people end up being a state member and a national member, you could effectively make, and this is one that I haven't talked about with Amanda, so she may balk at the idea of raising the prices. You could effectively make membership $50, at which point the YubiKey is added. You still have $25, and it gets you into whichever state you're in. So you're automatically in both. You have your YubiKey to vote.
Kyle's advertising for his YubiKey.
Yubi is a company. Y-U-B-I, Yubi.
I don't be you. I be I.
Oy vey.
Can I go? Oh, sorry. Go for it.
At that point, you've enabled your state affiliates to allow secure distributed voting. National has secure distributed voting. And you've given everyone a value add in their day-to-day life. No matter which password manager you have, as long as one of the modern ones isn't still like KeyPass 1 or something, they support YubiKeys. This means that you're giving someone the ability to stay secure physically, where to get into your password manager, you plug this in and it's unlocked. And if you pull it out, it's locked. So it literally becomes your key to your passwords. So you've given people the ability to be more secure in their day-to-day life. You've given people the ability to vote and given them more power in that voting system. You've given them a way to be invested, and you give everyone a little bit of a signal, with your custom LP YubiKeys of buy-in. There's a lot of positives to this.
Joe had mentioned earlier that it doesn't matter the mechanism of election as long as we have good people on the LNC. There we go. I disagree with this. Yay, back to normal. Partly because the way that we get people on the LNC is by member enfranchisement. Good people on the LNC is by seasoned member enfranchisement. And because, again, modes condition motives, right? So the way that you set up a system has a lot of bearing on both what you want out of the system and what the system actually achieves. This was something that was really big when we were organizing LP alliances. What do we want in the world, in the country? What do we want in the party? Okay, how can we organize LP alliance so that the way that we work creates the outcomes that we want. And in that respect, you are going to have a fundamentally different LNC. You're going to have a fundamentally different party strategy and way of thinking about, about the party. If there is a more democratic, agentic and franchise process versus you're delegating agency further and further and further and further outward and having a sort of libertarian technocracy making all the decisions for you, having the regions act as rubber stamps for whatever caucuses, having the states act as rubber stamps for whatever region. No, we make it direct, but we do it in a, in an intelligent manner. Right? So there is a seasoning requirement. You do have to have buy-in, but it definitely matters how we select our representatives of the platform, because the way that we do that is going to shape how that platform is represented.
So the big thing here is that we should be allowing the people who are doing work for the party, who care about the party, who are invested in the party, to further invest in the party, to have a say in what's going on. This last year, well, I guess it's a little more than a year now, this last 15 months or so, has proven more than any other time in Libertarian Party history that the concept of a strong central board and the concept of the strong chair model does not work without buy-in from the states.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was
okay. Yes.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, like, Star Child's in the comments, right? Star Child's a good example here. Star Child's been on the LNC. Star Child's been around for LPC and everything else. If Star Child wanted to be on the LNC again and Star Child didn't want to have to pay to get to every event, he's already shown that he's willing to do the work. He's already shown that he's able to do the work. He's already shown that his opinions do have people behind them. So why aren't we taking the time to make sure that Star Child gets a voice at the national level? You shouldn't have to campaign and spend money to get heard.
It's where commas are important, because I don't know whether the Liberty Centuries is saying don't interrupt Amanda or don't interrupt, comma, Amanda.
Why not both?
Why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? All right. You were talking about having the states and national be the same party. Kyle, would you like to say more on that?
Sure. This was done a little bit as an experiment for a while, I'm sorry.
Kyler?
Indeed. And you could become either a member of your state party or of national or of both with one donation. That both makes sense and is a pain in the ass. It became a huge problem in CRM. It became a huge problem all around. And it let people heavily differentiate between a state affiliate and national affiliate. This encouraged the concept that state and national aren't linked. This is painful for everybody. At the end of the day, the state affiliates are extensions of national. They are not literally the same. National doesn't control them, not directly. But even like someone in New Hampshire, who doesn't want to be affiliated with their state party, should be able to pay for national, and then, if they want to, show up to their state conventions to vote. Thereby, they should be linked together. They should be some sort of, concerted effort. Right now, what the fuck is national? Everyone looks at the state parties and are like, they're the ones doing the activism work. They're the ones bringing money in. They're the ones bringing members in. And we're watching National just go down the fucking hole. That's ridiculous. National is the state parties, and the state parties are national.
Which is why that 51 officer model plus 4 is such an imperative. And all that the affiliates do, all that the states do to bring in money to do the activism, it's great stuff. How much better could that be if they were able to share information and resources? We've talked before about the fact that a lot of times there will be bills that are similar in multiple parts of the country, right? And then that's a proving ground for something on the national level. Okay, well, if we know that, then there can be coordinated demonstrations across the country. This is, everything is linked in terms of the, causes informing candidates, the attention to causes informing the attention to candidates, member empowerment, making the states, work together in solidarity, giving them the opportunity to do that, to share initiatives and resources, successes, failures, learn from them. All of this is linked to making a stronger party. These are not little ideas that we have in isolation. Wouldn't this be good? It's, how does this serve that? How does this serve that? And right now, when we talk about the affiliates, they are on their own. The LNC is not doing great, right? With the right LNC that is structured in the right way and that is informed in the right way, that is elected in the right way, then what we are able to have is we're able to have that coherence around the country that creates, once again, that solidarity in terms of initiatives and in terms of effort, and there's a direct line of communication between members, states, and national. There's not a hierarchy, it is collapsed, and then that authority is both dispersed and maximized when everyone has that level of access. Phil wants member YubiKey recall and appeal the ruling of the chair mechanism, which we are working on member recall actually in bylaws.
It at the end of the day, which this is the bylaws meetings are public anyway, so I don't feel bad giving the same rant that I gave there. We give the ability.
Sorry, I wanted to credit Liberty Centuries because we are working right now on a bylaw proposal for member recall that comes significantly from, although it is under modification, comes significantly from some of the brilliant ideas that John Ponte had and has published them on the Torch. I think the article is called "The Need for a Better Democracy." And it's really great stuff. So again, this is an example of how we really, really want engagement so that we can take these great ideas that people have and actually, as best as we can, make your voices heard on bylaws and these other committees. Sorry, Kyle, continue.
So currently the LNC has a method to remove members who are major problems other than regional members. They've tried to fix the issue with regional as well, but it gets into murky waters when you have the way the region agreements work and everything. And so it's been a whole bunch of back and forth nonsense there. So who can recall the regional ones? The chairs of the regions. In some regions, the chairs can be directed by their XCOM. In others, their members can reach out. It's a nightmare. And so right now, the only ways people can be removed, which, if you're curious why, what gay shit are we all up to today? Mostly taking it in the ass, Meredith. That's what I'm doing today. As we learned across 2 attempts at removing Karen Ann, especially as we covered the second one very closely, the only ways people can be removed currently are from the LNC for cause against a person. That's able to be appealed to the JC. The JC has to rule on if there was cause. It's a mess. The people who were delegates of the previous convention can come together and recall a member at a very high threshold. And then currently, a very large portion of the entire membership can come together to attempt a recall.
That's what we're working toward. That's not what we have.
I think that is what we currently have.
Okay.
And so there's this giant issue where someone on the LNC can suck, and everyone can agree that they suck, and there's no way to fix that problem for 2 years, at a minimum, unless they happen to be a regional representative, in which case the regions can come together, blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is that the members should have a recall method where they can, again, stick a YubiKey in to prove that they're real and say, boop, this is how this is going to work. We think this person should be recalled. It triggers a ballot automatically that's sent to everybody. Everyone has the ability to vote on it. And if they're not recalled, they're not recalled. And there's no additional hassle. Part of the way that she flew around the country, Truth, is because I paid for one of the 2 trips she took. I paid for it. Literally me. It was there in the LNC investigation. That's how I know it was investigated. Because it was literally me.
I'm about to take comments off the screen. I'm genuinely about to take comments off so that you can't see these. Only you still would, so never mind. And it would just be you going back and forth. Member recall. One thing that, of course, we don't want is we do not want to have members able to recall, to recall state officers, right? So just because I don't like the way that the chair of North Dakota is behaving on the LNC, I can't recall them, right? That rests with the members in that state. But when it comes to officers like chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer of the party, then yes, there should be that member recall mechanism. But Kyle, go on.
So there's been a huge worry with some of the people we've talked to about this, of the idea of, well, a 55-person board will never get anything done, which is a fair fucking question. With no offense intended at any particular person. Imagine if 25 Austin Martins and Adrian Malagans were on a board together at the same time. Pretend that world happens. That board would do nothing because they would constantly mute each other and scream. So, why is the board the only place where these discussions are happening? And why is it happening only during the actual LNC meeting? Why is that meeting not a place to vote, to hear from people, and come together?
And to share what's going on in every state, right? To share what's happening, to give an update. And then again, people who are watching can know what's going on in other states. You can hear initiatives being discussed, right? Libertarianism isn't something that happens at every monthly LNC meeting. Libertarianism is who we are. It is how we live our lives. And that should be reflected at the LNC meetings.
Look, all I'm saying is if you don't make Meredith read at least one libertarian document a day, we failed our jobs. Sorry, Meredith. The fact of the matter is that the LNC currently has a whopping 17 people on it who are attempting to run what is effectively a, in some ways, multinational, but we're going to say nationwide corporation, managing thousands of shareholders slash employees, volunteers. It's very handsy, but you know what I mean. Love you, Meredith. And that's impossible. They're not paid. So either you have to be able to spread that work out across the people, or that work has to be accepted to suck. Those are your only options. Because there aren't 551 states.
You people, yes, you libertarians. There's also, there's a fear of death by committee, which I completely understand. Right now, the way that the LNC works is pretty siloed, right? So there are committees, but it's kind of like, okay, well, that's the job for that committee and that's the job for that committee. So again, there's not crosstalk, there's not conversation, and there's not a sense of, when I think that there's a committee for something, I am less inclined to think that I can do anything about that something, right? If I see it as being the job of someone else, no matter how much I want to do it, if it's on this committee that is removed from me, then I am less able to, I feel less capable of participating in it, so I care less, even if it's something that's very important. While we do think that there's absolutely a place for committees on the LNC, these need to be very, very much member-based, right? And so a lot of times officers have tended to dominate committees. We want conversations between members and officers. There should be discussions of what is happening on each committee. What are they doing? What are their initiatives? And then again, feedback, buy-in, that sort of thing. It should be an open forum that people want to participate in. And we need to be hearing regularly about what's going on at those committees. Kyle and I are on bylaws, and we try to give updates when we can in the torch about what's going on in bylaws. So that is something that needs to be happening across the board. As we talk more about the IALP as well, the International Alliance of Libertarian Parties, what we would love to see is call it, an international affairs committee, international relations committee, although international affairs sounds much hotter and I would be into that. But an international relations committee. Kyle is so occupied with what's happening in the chat that he did not laugh at my joke. I know. Yes, Joe, I was hoping that you would say it because, then you might not shout me down. Joe and I agree yet again, there should be committee reports at every meeting, or at least they should be visible to the public. They don't necessarily need to be read out at every meeting, but they should absolutely be visible to the public. Here is what is going on. All right.
Which, since Meredith's in the chat, I will point out honestly, and this is not a shot at Meredith. This would be true of basically anyone on the LNC, but she'll be able to confirm that I'm not just lying to you.
Not the only one, Joe.
I'm on 2 national committees right now, IS and bylaws. I would bet money that Meredith has no idea about any of the things IS does. Not the things necessarily that Andy Bukovic does, because there are things he does with staff and that directly affects the LNC. But when it comes to how we're doing work with Zoho and everything, I will bet money she doesn't know. And that's not even her fault. This is how those committees were designed. This is how the LNC was designed. There's no way to get that information back and forth. There is no quarterly state of the Libertarian Party to go to and be able to understand what people are working on. There's no, how dare you?
We try with Sparks. We do. We try with Sparks. It's the state of the Libertarian Party every week to 10 days.
And so I have told Meredith about some of it. That's true. I've also whined just a little bit to Meredith about it. Because IS right now is getting things done, but it's very struggle bussy. Go ahead and volunteer, Truth. There's an application process. Put your name out there. Stop being a bitch in our chat and go do something.
I'm just going to stare at you awkwardly as you continue to, no. Going back to the International Affairs Committee, of course, the makeup of the LNC changes, right? And so sometimes the LNC is more or less amenable to international engagement, which we feel is critical and should be ongoing. So by having an international affairs committee that interfaces directly with the international lines of libertarian parties and other libertarian counterparts that are perhaps not established as official libertarian parties because they're like in Cuba or whatever, that is actually a thing. We should have a dedicated committee that works on these initiatives of solidarity, that we can support our libertarian counterparts worldwide, that we can, once again, share those successes, learn from failures, share resources and information, coordinate initiatives with the membership. And that way there is a committee that is led by people who are dedicated to this, right? We always know that there is someone who is dedicated to the cause of international libertarian solidarity that is on that committee and helping to steer it so that we don't have to worry about a chair that is incredibly isolationist coming in. We always have, the chair of the LP should absolutely be on that committee, but we always have a dedicated committee with dedicated individuals whose purpose is international solidarity and forwarding the cause of liberty worldwide.
We are currently in non-ASCAM. That's correct.
We've never had an ASCAM here.
We have had an ASCAM.
No, there's been an ASCAM on our stream, but we have never hosted the ASCAM.
Okay, I'll accept this. If we don't give a way for the people who are going out and doing work to feel like that work is appreciated and shaping the party, they're not going to stay around. You know, I'm on IS. I'm a well-paid, very well-backed engineer. I've got a lot of experience in a lot of fields. An ass cam is a cam of someone's ass. Meredith was on ass cam.
Tyler, I like holacracy circles too, and sometime you're going to have to come on and we're going to have a discussion where we tell the good people about holacracy. You're more of an expert than I am. I know mostly the idea rather than the actual methodology, although it's holacratic. So there's, we're going to have a conversation about that. Sorry, Kyle, go on.
Heard it here first. If you donate enough to LPA tonight, fucking A. For enough money tonight, Jake Porter will bring back the ass cam tomorrow, which would be on the business lists.
What we actually
just turn around, boom.
Is it going to be the business list or is it going to be LNC meeting? I mean, the business list will be the LNC meeting, but we need to broadcast that.
Yep.
Nobody knows. It's a mystery.
You were perfectly fine, Meredith. The dress was lovely. There was literally not a single negative comment. There were overwhelmingly positive things said. Promise. But we're in the era where the technology for these votes exist. There's no reason that, an LNC member who lives in Arizona should have to fly to Maine ever, when the one was in DC, which has also been where the National Convention was. There's no reason that Hawaii and Alaska and California have to be there.
But there is also no reason that an LNC member who lives in Arizona shouldn't know what's going on in and care about and be able to assist with what's going on in Maine. These realities are both possible and indeed necessary today. If we want a decentralized revolution, and I want a revolution that leads to greater decentralization in terms of, again, the capacity for human ingenuity to flourish maximally, but also we want more solidarity, right? We want there to be, an arena of maximum engagement where people aren't limited in what they can do and what they can achieve and what they can care about by, the distance that they can travel. Then we need to replicate that on our board and in our party. We need to be at the helm of this movement, and we need to engineer our movement's organization so that it achieves the outcomes we desire.
So Truth actually brings up a good point here. This is an argument that I've heard quite a bit. The 2020 convention was a hybrid convention. The 2020 convention was a dumpster fire. This was not because of it being a hybrid convention, but because of a split LNC where the chair was fighting the rest of the LNC on if the convention should be purely virtual or not. Now, there was some political motivation behind the idea of making it fully virtual, but there was also the part where trying to get a convention together in the middle of COVID was a nightmare. And so what was supposed to be a cool Dallas convention became a bit of a nightmare of a hybrid convention in Orlando. And let's be real, unless you're going to the parks, no one actually wants to go to Orlando. No one wants to go to Florida. Fuck you, Florida. I hope we have some west of the Mississippi. The East Coast sucks. So the problem is that the planning for a hybrid convention is just as much or more work than an in-person one. Because you still have to plan the in-person part of the convention. You still have to know how many people are coming to get the right idea of how big the size is. You still have to do all that effort. You still have to pay for it. But you also have to make sure that all of your streams are up to time. You have to make sure. I love LP Florida. Absolutely. You guys are awesome. I feel sorry for you for living in that hellhole. Whew. What was I going on about before I got distracted?
You're talking about hybrid conventions and how they are difficult to plan. Yeah.
And you have to make sure that there's some way that we can have chat going from there where you can have people speaking in real time so that people who are on the Zoom can interrupt or whatever distribution service. I second your motion. There's got to be all the planning and effort there. Instead, there was sort of planning for an online convention and planning for it being in Orlando, and all the planning that had been done for Dallas got chucked. That led to a dumpster fire. Who would have guessed? It turns out that if you plan something in like 6 weeks and you plan 2 of them in 2 different freaking things, it doesn't go well. It's almost like planning matters. So, that's the thing. We have the technology to do this. It's not that expensive to permanently just buy the cameras. I mean, literally, even if you want 4 cameras, yes, as an investment, yes, the current LNC can't afford it. Yes, it would require raising funds for it. But you're talking 25, 30 grand to have everything you need for a professional level stream. And it's going to be good for decades. We have the ability to let people securely vote. We have the ability to have everyone up to date as if they're at the convention. We have the ability to fight. This is not something that has to be one board that has shown that it can tear itself apart from the inside, and it doesn't matter how good you are or anything else. When there's 55 people who have to do a thing, it's a lot harder for one person to suck and make it suck for everyone else.
Can you go back over, Kyle, why it's so difficult to rig a hybrid convention with YubiKeys?
I can. So, a YubiKey is a hardware authenticator. There is, in every YubiKey, a 4096-bit unique key inside that the only way to get to it is to destroy the YubiKey and read the chip inside. What it can do, though, is give you the public key portion from the software on it perfectly fine. This means that the only way to log in, if you give everyone who can vote a YubiKey, is for that YubiKey to be plugged in.
Kyle, is there a server involved with the YubiKey?
In that, if you go across the internet, you go onto some DNS server somewhere. In the same way, if you consider a switchboard for telephoning a server, because technically a DNS is a server. But what happens instead is you basically have a live. I'll bet there's not several people here who understand YubiKeys well enough to know if this idea is stupid. I'm literally one of the top 500 experts in digital security in the world. There's like, you're not on the same par, bud. So you have your encrypted key here. It only exists here. It cannot be cloned. It cannot be copied. And so what happens is you are directly giving your vote so that you have a screen that's sitting there, and every time a vote comes in, pop, 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 and every one of them has the public key from a YubiKey. You already have the database of your YubiKeys, so that, and those are all public keys, which means you can take those sets of YubiKeys and dump those votes out afterward, and the YubiKeys are completely, hidden unless you tell someone else what your YubiKey is. And you can go stick your YubiKey in and verify that your vote was there. And no one could possibly hack it.
Unless someone steals it. I guess that would be the closest that you could do to, like a cold wallet or something. Yeah, if you stole it, you could technically hack it.
All right. So Truth is again bringing up a thing saying there's no way to hack it. I realize that I'm responding to Truth again, and thereby man is inherently mad.
I'm very mad. Because guys, here's the thing behind Truth. Truth is actually a member of LPA. Truth is like and I know that I'm sorry, but like I have to explain, right, so that the audience doesn't continue jumping on you. So this will only be done like once. Truth is a hugely active member of LPA. And a while ago, we had this conversation of like needing trolls to be legit. So Truth has volunteered her services to come and troll us, which is why like you see a lot of the same things being repeated. But this is the deal. So you can jump on Truth if you like, but because it has become so distracting, I did want to say that. And now we can go back to why, to the hackability of the YubiKey. Sorry, Truth.
So, people think of everything as hackable. That is not true. I know this because I've written formal verification code. When you formally verify code, it is literally, mathematically unhackable. There is no way to change the things going in. There's no way to change the things going out. There are no buffer overflows. There are no memory overflows.
Yes.
There are no issues with fucking up your timings and CPUs. None of it happens. It's impossible. There are... Sorry, car pulled into my driveway. There are very good ways to show this. It's literally a formal branch of mathematics because all computer science started in mathematics and is still, at the end of the day, mathematics. If you want a quick overview on it, literally you can go to Wikipedia and look up formal verification, and formal verification will talk you through the hardware and software and how this works. If anyone ever cares about the math behind it, feel free to reach out. I can tell you about some of those things. If people actually want to hear about this, you might even be able to convince me to write a Torch article on it.
Write an article for the Torch. Write an article for the Torch.
Oh my God, people will be so bored. It basically becomes a security white paper, and it's drier than deserts. I say people will be so bored, but like I get really excited about these things. So maybe I will do that. You heard it here first. Bill Gates is now the sponsor of the LNC. Bill Gates has an agenda. We're all getting vaccinated tomorrow. Bill Gates is going to kill us like the mosquitoes.
So when we talk about stuff like this, so we talk about member voting via UB keys. We talk about member engagement committee reports being published monthly. And we talk about a 55-member LNC with state officers. And, hopefully, again, suggestion, restructuring state boards as well, giving members greater agency and enfranchisement. It's important because, yes, we are directing this toward member empowerment. Why are we directing this toward member empowerment? Yes, because the party is the sum total of the actions of its members. And because the more that members feel like the party is invested in them, the more they will invest in the party. But that is important. Why? Why does it matter? Because the party is about more than just being a top-down corporation. This is why it is important to have causes and candidates. The members are the engine of the cause. The members also really help the candidates. The LNC does a lot of work, and the state affiliates and boards do a lot of work when it comes to supporting the candidates. Why is that important? Because causes and candidates are mutually enforcing one another, right? If a cause is successful, it helps amplify visibility for the success of a candidate. If a candidate is successful, again, it helps to galvanize a cause, but really the cause, the grassroots is where it starts. So all of this is building toward something, right? All of this is building toward making the party a stronger, more formidable engine in every way of political change, of social change, and that the key to that is member empowerment and member enfranchisement. And that, again, so you're seeing how we're talking about things that build on one another. Party needs to do more than just try to back candidates, because if we do that, we don't get candidates to win. The party needs to do that by having members engaged. All of this builds on it. And we also just get a party that's more efficient and where there's more transparency. We know what's going on with committees. We care more. So.
I think that I have talked about most of the things that I had intended to go through tonight. That's a lie. I've got one more thing that I want to talk about.
Oh boy.
There's one more thing that I think is really important when talking about empowerment of affiliates and members. And I understand how we ended up so siloed and everything, but that's information. Currently, National has great Aristotle data. There's one person who's trying to break it out, and we don't have the personnel to get this done quickly. We don't have the ability to get that to states well. We don't have the way to use that data for candidacies, etc. Part of the importance of making affiliates part of National and National part of affiliates, and not having those seen as separate entities that sometimes sort of interface, is a form of trust, which I can feel Amanda cringing. But it's a particularly good form of trust as an engineer, because everything there is zero trust. Zero trust is a system by which no machine, no person, no role is expected to always be trusted. There's nowhere where it's always trusted, etc. This means that you have your separation of data in such a way that both your affiliate and National can see the relevant data between them, but National can't see any of the internals from state, and state can't see any of the internals from National or any of the other states. unless those states choose to grant that access back and forth. No one is trusted. There's no trusted machines. You are logging in somewhere, and you have very specific tools like YubiKeys so that you can get to that data. Right now, the state affiliates, and I'm going to tell you exactly like it is because IAS knows this. We've talked about it. There is not a state in the nation right now that trusts national. There are fewer than a dozen states that are willing to stay on Civi. And the other
Tell the people what Civi is, please.
Civi CRM, the previous customer relational management software that we were using for fundraising for everything. All work with our members, all work with prospects, everything went through Civi. National is now mostly using Zoho. In any of the states that wanted to stay with Civi, there is an interim national Civi that you can use through Ken Molman. And everyone's being forced to pay for their own. And so they're like, they've lost our data, they've lost our trust, they've lost everything, we won't trust them with anything. Good. Good. You shouldn't trust that the centralized national hub is going to do things correctly. National shouldn't just trust that every one of the states is going to do everything correctly. Instead, they should be able to work together in a way where that trust isn't required. Instead, that data is somewhere so that both sides can get to it, both sides can access it and use it, but we have the ability to actively ensure that neither the LNC nor the state can destroy what's coming in the middle, and each of them have their own pockets of things that can be held, so that when National gets Aristotle data or a state gets L2 haystack data or anything else, they can help each other, they can spread that data around, we can use that for micro-targeting, we can see how each one is marketing, we can make sure we're on the same page with marketing, and at the end of the day, all of it is held safely from everyone fucking it up. No new person can come in and just blow things up because the data itself cannot be destroyed. This is going to be a little more technical than people are going to care about, but that's what I am.
He makes fun of me for my articles. He makes fun of me for writing long articles, and then he goes off on these rants about technical stuff.
I make fun of her articles, but I read all of her articles and really like them, in fact. It is just to tease her. So, when you've set your infrastructure up correctly, the only thing that can destroy data is what's called a glass break that alerts everyone that it's been triggered. There's no way to access everything unless everyone knows it's being accessed. And if that happens, everyone has the ability to basically flip a switch and stop it. Everyone also has the ability to flip a switch and just copy all the data right quick. That's what zero trust looks like. You don't trust anyone to store your data. They don't trust you to store your data. It's in between. It's routinely done in things like Amazon's S3 buckets or Wasabi, which is also an S3 bucket but sold more cheaply. Blah, 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 blah. We can realistically talk about if there should be some centralized servers, but there shouldn't be. But that data must also be distributed. At the end of the day, the way all affiliates, national, and all of us interact with everyone else that we don't know is through data. It's through the understandings we've written down. It's through the understandings of notes that people have put in. It's through things where Haystack has figured out if you care about abortion. All of those things are how we figure out who to go talk to who aren't already part of the party, etc.
Which is why our distributed, decentralized, yet connected and coordinated ways of, or ideas for organizing national and the states are meant to replicate the way that the data are organized and so on. So,
at the end of the day, no matter what system you're using, you can crap everything out as what's called a flat file, like a CSV, comma separated value file, so that everything is in a state where it can be pulled into whatever database or system you want to use. This means that people don't have to be on the same tech stack as national. They don't have to be on the same tech stack as any of the states. They don't have to do anything, but everything can be shared back and forth seamlessly without anyone having to trust each other. And you have logs of everything automatically, because every time you log in with that YubiKey, you know exactly which user touched it and what happened to that data, how it was copied, how it was used, how it was moved. And everyone does. So you know if National screws it up. You know if Delaware screwed it up. Fuck you, Delaware. What did Delaware do wrong? Too close to Maryland. No one likes Maryland. You guys have weird flag.
I like Delaware. When I was a kid, we would go to Rehoboth Beach. Go to Funland.
No beaches should exist north of South Carolina.
Rehoboth Beach was the best. Did anyone in the chat go to Rehoboth Beach when they were young? Did anyone? Just let me know, because it's really fun. Funland was amazing. I mean, they're all nodding so vehemently that they can't type. They have vertigo from nodding.
So, I guess I want to respond to Truth one more time here. I haven't volunteered to do this. The LNC can't afford me if they wanted to pay me my actual going rate. Like, you are literally talking $200 an hour for me to do a thing. And that's at least 100 hours work. So, they're not going to pay me to do it. I'm expensive. As Amanda routinely points out, I'm a bougie bitch.
You are a bougie bitch.
Amanda loves Biden. I love Sarwark. We're all Marxist leftists. And we have been LPA. So, catch everybody soon. Have a good night.
Tomorrow night, LNC meeting. We'll be here with you. You'll be here with us. We're going to get through this together. That's going to be our business list. So that is what's going on for tomorrow.